Thomas felt something was off the moment she kissed him at the altar. It wasn't the way her lips pressed against his or the way her hands trembled slightly. It was her eyes, wide open, darting toward the crowd behind him, as if expecting someone else to object. But no one did. And so he smiled, naive and blind, while she wore the mask of a woman in love. The ceremony was held under a canopy of gold-threaded lace, in the garden of a luxury estate just outside Charleston. White petals were scattered down the aisle. Guests took photos, clapped, and wiped away tears. Thomas stood proud in his tailored navy suit, convinced he was the luckiest man alive. Emily looked like something out of a bridal magazine. Her dress clung to her like silk poured over skin, her hair curled to perfection. Every step she took seemed effortless, too effortless. It was as if she'd practiced the role of dream bride 1,000 times, but only for a performance. They were married by sunset. By the time the reception started, the guests had already moved into the glass pavilion overlooking the lake. Champagne flowed freely. Thomas danced with his mother. Emily laughed with her bridesmaids. Everything looked perfect. But in Emily's phone, tucked inside the pocket of her maid of honor's purse, a message blinked across the screen. "You looked incredible walking down that aisle. Made me wonder if you're doing this for real. Darius." She read it while adjusting her lipstick in the bathroom mirror. Her hand trembled, but not from fear, from memory. A memory of 3 weeks ago. Of hotel sheets tangled with guilt. Of her legs wrapped around a man who wasn't wearing a ring. His skin was darker, warmer. His voice thicker, slower, smoother. Darius didn't ask for promises. He didn't want love. He wanted escape, and so did she. The message wasn't the first. It was the latest in a string of texts that had never stopped. Not even the night before the wedding. And now he was here. He told her he wouldn't come. That he respected the boundary. That he'd delete everything. But when she saw his profile flash on the guest list, last minute, under a fake +1, her stomach dropped through the floor. Thomas had no idea. He was making speeches about fate and stars, and knowing since the first coffee date. His parents beamed. His friends cheered. Emily downed a glass of wine and scanned the room. And then she saw him. Darius was leaning against the far wall near the open bar, dressed in a black shirt that clung to his frame. No tie. No smile. Just eyes, locked on her like she was the only thing in that ballroom. And for a second, she forgot she was wearing white. Forgot the ring. Forgot Thomas. She excused herself. Said she needed air. Said the dress was too tight. She slipped through the side doors into the back garden, heels crunching against gravel. It was dusk now. Fireflies danced between rose bushes. The music dimmed behind her. Then she heard the voice. "You really did it." She turned. Darius stood just feet away, his hands in his pockets. He wasn't smiling. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. He stepped closer. "You didn't tell me to stop. I was getting married." "You still are." Emily swallowed. Her throat burned. "You think I came here to crash it?" he asked. "I came because I had to see if it was real. If this was who you really are." She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped closer, one breath, then another, until his cologne blurred the lines of her loyalty. She kissed him, just once, but it lasted too long. It tasted too good, and it ended too late. They didn't notice the phone in the bushes, recording everything. A kid cousin, maybe 14, filming everything for a TikTok recap. A video he thought would be behind-the-scenes footage of a perfect wedding. He didn't know what he'd caught, not yet. Back inside, Thomas was looking for her. He checked with her friends, her sister, even the bartender. No one had seen her in 10 minutes. So he stepped outside, walked past the fountain, and saw her. She wasn't kissing Darius anymore, but her hands still lingered on his chest. Her face still held the color of something freshly sinful. Thomas froze, watched, realized, then turned. He didn't say a word. He walked back inside and poured himself a glass of whiskey. Straight. No ice. It burned the whole way down. Emily re-entered 5 minutes later, cheeks flushed, eyes damp. "You okay?" her maid of honor whispered. Emily nodded. Lied. The first dance began. The lights dimmed. Everyone gathered in a circle. And then, someone connected a phone to the screen projector. Accidental? Maybe. Intentional? Absolutely. The cousin's video played on loop. No sound. Just 25 seconds of a bride kissing a man who wasn't her husband, in her wedding dress, just feet away from where she said her vows. Gasps. Screams. Someone dropped a glass. Thomas didn't move. He just watched it play. Once. Twice. 3 times. When he looked at her, his face didn't show hate. It showed nothing, which somehow hurt more. The silence after the video played was louder than the music ever had been. Emily stood frozen under the chandelier, her white dress suddenly feeling like a costume. Guests stared, whispered, backed away. Some clutched their mouths. Others looked at Thomas, expecting an outburst, a scream, a shattered glass across the wall. But he did none of that. He just walked past her. Slowly, deliberately, without touching her, without looking her in the eye. She tried to follow. Thomas. Don't. His voice was low, flat, final. He didn't yell. He didn't run. He simply disappeared into the night air, the glass doors swinging closed behind him. Emily stood alone in the center of the room, surrounded by petals and broken trust. The maid of honor came running. What do we do? Emily didn't respond. Her mouth was dry. Her hands were shaking. She had rehearsed the vows. The first dance. The cake cutting. But not this. Not being caught. Not being exposed in front of everyone she loved, and everyone he loved more. Outside, Thomas walked down the gravel path toward the lake, where the lanterns floated gently on the water. His reflection looked like a stranger. He thought of all the things he wanted to scream. He thought of all the nights he held her while she cried over things she said she couldn't tell anyone else. How he paid her student loans. How he met her alcoholic father and shook his hand anyway. How he sold his motorcycle to afford the ring she posted on Pinterest. He thought of how proud he was when she walked down the aisle. And how fast it all vanished. Darius. The man in the video. Thomas knew him. He wasn't just a stranger. He was Emily's ex-coworker, the one she always said was flirty but harmless. The one she swore never crossed a line. Thomas remembered shaking his hand at a barbecue last year. Now he wanted to break it. Thomas didn't come back to the reception. He didn't call anyone. He just kept walking past the trees, past the gravel path, down the road toward the rented black SUV parked near the gate. His best man tried calling. His mother cried behind a potted plant. Emily sat alone in the bridal suite, surrounded by lipstick-stained tissues and untouched champagne. She stared at her phone. 10 missed calls from her sister. Dozens of texts from guests. One message from Darius. I didn't mean for it to go down like that. She didn't reply. How could she? Darius was gone. Left before the cops came because someone filed a noise complaint and the officers showed up asking questions. The entire wedding was officially labeled a disaster. Vendors packed up early. The DJ unplugged mid-song. The cake was never even cut. Thomas's father had to foot the bill while his son vanished. 2 days later, Emily sat in the same room where she and Thomas were supposed to spend their honeymoon night. Alone. The bed still had rose petals. The tub still smelled like lavender. Her gown was crumpled on the floor. She hadn't left since that night. She hadn't heard from Thomas, either. He'd gone silent. Socials off. Phone off. Cards canceled. No one knew where he was, not even his own brother. Emily stared at her phone, then did what she never imagined she'd do. She called Darius. He picked up on the first ring. Hey, you ruined everything. There was silence. You think I planned that? He asked. I didn't know that video would go viral. I didn't know some punk kid was filming us. I came to talk. You kissed me. You let me. Her stomach twisted. Darius sighed. Look, I messed up, but I'm not the one who walked down the aisle with someone else's heart still in my mouth. She hung up. It was the last time she'd speak to him. By the end of the week, the video had hit 2.3 million views. It was all over Reddit, Twitter, TikTok. The wedding kiss betrayal, that's what people called it. Everyone had an opinion. Theories. Memes. Even reaction videos. Some blamed Thomas for not knowing better. Some called Emily trash in a white dress. Others speculated it was staged. Emily couldn't go outside without hearing whispers. She went to the pharmacy, and the cashier asked, "Are you that girl?" At the gym, someone snapped a photo of her in leggings and posted it with the caption, "When the bride kisses the wrong groom." She deleted all her socials. But it was too late. She had become the face of betrayal. And Thomas? He was gone. Until one afternoon, Emily opened the mailbox and found a letter. No name. No return address. Just her name in black ink, all caps. Inside was a photo. Thomas. Sitting alone on a bench near the lake where they got married. Behind him, a new inscription carved into the wooden slats. Love died here. She dropped the letter. He wasn't coming back. Not for her. Not after that. But the worst part? She still loved him. And now she had to live with what she did. 3 weeks passed before Thomas spoke to anyone. He wasn't hiding in a cabin or checking himself into some resort. No, He'd returned to the place he used to go before he met her, the town's old boxing gym. A place that smelled like blood, sweat, and disappointment. A place no one would think to look. Every day he wrapped his hands. Every night he stayed until the last bulb flickered off. His fists bled. His knuckles cracked. But the pain was a relief. It gave him something to feel other than betrayal. The image of her in that white dress, lips pressed to another man, haunted him. He couldn't unsee it. He'd close his eyes and see it play again, like a horror film on loop. His brother, Mike, finally found him after tracking his credit card activity. He showed up with burgers and beer, thinking that would fix things. It didn't. She tried calling me, Mike said quietly, sitting on the gym bench. Thomas didn't respond. She's a mess. Thomas kept taping his hands. She's not eating, not sleeping. Says she doesn't even recognize herself. Thomas stood, grabbed the gloves. Good. Mike sighed. You loved her, man. Thomas glared. No. I loved who I thought she was. That woman died at the altar. They didn't speak for the rest of the night. Across town, Emily was unraveling. The wedding video had now crossed 4 million views. Every time it dipped off the algorithm, someone reposted it. She tried changing her hair, even considered moving. But the comments followed her like ghosts. Once a cheater. She belongs in a Lifetime movie. Dude dodged a bullet. At her job, she was quietly asked to take a leave of absence. Too much unwanted attention. At her mother's house, she wasn't even allowed inside. You disgrace this family, her mother hissed through the screen door. She was losing everything. So she did the unthinkable. She drove to Thomas's gym. She waited in her car, watching the door, heart in her throat. It was nearly midnight when he finally walked out, towel slung over his shoulder, hoodie soaked in sweat. She got out. He froze. They stared at each other across the parking lot like strangers. The space between them felt like a battlefield. Don't, he said. She stepped forward anyway. I just need to say something. No, you don't. Yes, I do. He turned away. She kept walking. I'm sorry, Thomas. He stopped. For what? He asked without looking back. The kiss? The lie? The humiliation? Or just getting caught? Tears welled in her eyes. For all of it. You killed us, he said. You didn't just cheat. You broke something sacred. You broke me. I know. I hate myself for it. Not enough. Silence. I didn't plan it, she whispered. But you didn't stop it either. He looked at her now. Really looked. You kissed him in your wedding dress, he said slowly. While I was inside thanking our guests. You took every vow we wrote and spat on them. I know. And now what? He asked. You want a second chance? No, she said. He blinked. I just want you to know. I'll never forgive myself. Not for what I did. Not for how I made you feel. Not for turning what should have been the best day of your life into a memory you'll spend years trying to forget. For the first time, he softened. Just a little. You were everything, he said. And I lost you. He nodded. You lost me the second your lips touched his. You just didn't know it yet. She reached into her pocket and handed him something. It was the ring. His ring. The one he had slid onto her finger at the altar. I don't deserve to keep it. He stared at it, then took it. That was the last time they saw each other. Or so they thought. 2 months later, Emily was working part-time at a bookstore out of town, trying to rebuild her life in silence. She lived in a studio apartment with peeling wallpaper and a broken heater, barely scraping rent. Her phone stayed off most nights. The world had moved on. She hadn't. One rainy afternoon, she was organizing the poetry section when the bell above the door rang. She looked up, and her heart dropped. Thomas stood there, soaked, beard grown out, eyes tired. Why are you here? She asked. He held up a book. I bought this for you last Christmas. You never opened it. It was an old collection of Pablo Neruda's love poems. She remembered. He opened it to a page, then read. I love you as certain dark things are to be loved. In secret, between the shadow and the soul. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm not here to forgive you, he said. And I'm not here to fix anything. Then why? Because I realized something, he said. You hurt me, more than anyone ever has. But I'm still alive. And I needed to see it. One last time. To know that I could survive you. She nodded slowly. He turned to leave. Thomas. He stopped. I'll always love you, she said. He didn't turn around. He just opened the door and stepped out into the rain. The rain had stopped by the time Thomas reached the car, but his hands were still trembling. He hadn't planned the visit. He didn't even know he was going to step through the door until he did. Seeing her again, it didn't give him closure. Not really, but it gave him proof. Proof that he could stand in front of her and not break. Proof that love, once shattered, doesn't always rebuild. Some days he hated her. Other days he hated himself for still caring. But on most days, he just felt empty. Like there was a part of him left back at that altar, bleeding on white petals that never got cleaned up. Emily, meanwhile, carried her shame like a second skin. She wore it quietly in the mornings when she caught her reflection before makeup. She wore it loud at night, when she lay in bed replaying everything, the kiss, the look on Thomas's face, the sound of glass shattering when the video played. That sound never left her. Time moved on. But neither of them really did. 6 months after the wedding that wasn't, Thomas moved to Nashville. Started over. New job. New apartment. New gym. He told people he was single. He didn't tell them why. He never told them her name. He dated once. A girl named Riley. Funny. Sweet. But when she leaned in to kiss him, something inside him flinched. Not because he didn't want it, but because he remembered the last time love cost him everything. So he pulled away and apologized and went home alone. Emily stayed behind. The bookstore closed. She picked up work as a waitress at a quiet diner near the highway, the kind with plastic booths and old men who tip in coins. She didn't mind. No cameras. No whispers. Just coffee and orders in silence. She hadn't spoken to Darius since the phone call. He tried reaching out once more, a voicemail that said, "I miss you. I wish things were different." She deleted it. Because deep down, she knew Darius wasn't the problem. She was. The betrayal hadn't been a one-time mistake. It was a choice she made, minute by minute, even when she could have stopped. That was the part Thomas could never forgive. And she didn't blame him. One day, while wiping down tables, she found an envelope tucked beneath a napkin. Inside, just a note. No name. No signature. You don't have to be forgiven to become better. You just have to be honest. It wasn't Thomas's handwriting, but she knew it was meant for her. And somehow, it helped. She started therapy. Started journaling. Started reading again. She stopped wearing white. Years passed. The video faded from the internet, buried under newer scandals and clickbait. But the story never left them. Thomas built a good life. Steady job. Small circle. A dog he rescued named Lucky. He smiled more. Trusted less. He never remarried. Emily started writing. Short stories. Essays. One of them, The Dress I Ruined, was picked up by a small magazine. She never used her real name. But the words were hers, honest and sharp. She never dated again. Then, one cold December evening, 5 years to the day since the wedding, Emily found a letter in her mailbox. No return address. Just a familiar script on the front. Inside, a photo. The lake. The same bench. But the carving was gone, sanded away, replaced by something new. Love lived here. And survived. Below it, just one line of ink. You don't have to reply. Just know I'm okay now. She held it to her chest, tears slipping down her cheeks. That night, she lit a candle and whispered his name once. Not to bring him back, but to finally let him go. Because some stories don't end in forgiveness. They end in growth. And in the silent, sacred knowing that love, real love, can break, burn, and bury you. But it can also rebuild you into someone who never lets it happen again.